Sometimes you talk about the image, because YouTube would sometimes say, I have no image of myself, I have no image of this.
I think he messed up in that.
Yeah, I want to know why do you think he messed up in that?
He assumed certain definition of J. Krishnamurti's description of image making process.
Yeah. Because in a way, we all have the impression that there's like an echo chamber.
That's true.
Inside, and then so if someone makes a speech or a whistle and then you can replay it, obviously you're not replaying it, you just have the impression that it's being replayed. But that impression itself is a sort of copy of the stimuli, and the feeling is wherever that is existing inside is the mind, and that if
your ability to imagine something outside the framework of stimulus and response, like,
yeah,
to be precise,
and if that gets
foundationless, like the desire that arises in that compartment, which sets in motion something that you want to experience or you want to enjoy or you want to reject, called image making process. This is and we are, as a human being, we are born with that ability right from the beginning. We are taught, because we have that equipment ready to be exercised in image galore, because otherwise you won't be able to function. This equipment is already designed to function that way. You will be able to imagine, and imagination is a constant image making process. The fact that you read a book, you are constantly creating image, because you learned those words and its meaning and associated images. You continuously, seamlessly, you create image. As you read through the book, the image is unfolding inside you.
And so Yuji was suggesting that
when he reads something, nothing happens to him.
And also that it was impossible
for him
to make images of other people because he had no image of himself.
Yeah, so that's I don't want to defend anything or otherwise.
Sure.
It's not like that. There are two aspects of it. For example, if I'm talking to you, if I need to create an image about somebody else, I need to take myself a lot away from here. That's the way things operation. But if I am completely engaged here and very interesting, the desire to make any image about anything else is zero at this moment. So obviously I can't think anything else at this moment when I'm looking at your face and talking to you, So I'm paying attention, and so all the faculties are zero. In that way, now if there is a condition where you are not demanding anything for yourself by yourself, it is the demand that starts a whole process of image making. If that demand somehow is almost not there, it's only operational. Right now, you have to go to refrigerator and open your this thing, cook these things. Outside of this framework, there is no image making going on. So that way, that the image making faculty is in the background. So as soon as you recognize somebody, it is the same image making faculty that is telling you this is so and so.
But do you think that Yuji had an image of himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
I have many proofs about it.
Can you tell me some?
Well, he wanted him to look certain way when it was not. He said it's a bad picture. That clearly shows that he had an image about himself.
So then why did he say that he didn't?
His desire to create an image was not there.
But even in that's a bad picture. There's some, maybe not desire, but there's some not
recognition, yeah.
There's some preference at least.
Yeah. So these are all, so if you think he had none, then you are idealizing too much.
But didn't he invite that sort of thing by saying, I have no image of myself? Then people should think, oh, that's because he has no ego and therefore he's...
So that's the ball is in your court.
Yeah.
You will begin to understand in your own life what is it means. Maybe there is a very important teaching about it. Teaching in a sense that all your desires are propelled through this image-making process of what you want to be, which is obviously not what you identified as you as yourself. Even your identifying you as yourself has the wrong foundation. You accepted certain things about you, that what you should be, and you find yourself you are not that, or when you find yourself you are that, you are very happy. So your happiness and sorrow, frustration and everything depends on those image-making tribes that is there all the time in you. So he had, those things were kind of dead. Dead in a sense that it's a very little effect of those things which would interfere in his functioning. Like when he is functioning with you or me, those things are not standing in his way. Absolutely. Like how he should conduct. Suppose if I already geared myself, okay, I should be like this, and anything that is demanding me to respond differently, I had a conflict, isn't it? Those things were very much not there. He was pretty blunt about it.
But when he would say, there's no one here who's talking, it's only words.
Yeah.
You feel like that is a appropriate way of putting it, or
it's not appropriate way of putting it, but the fundamental philosophical concept is like that, in a sense that he didn't have desire to explain one thing or the other to you that would impose any of his ideation and intention on me. In that way, there was no you. There is no such thing as me as a representative of an idea or a value system. So I am just responding to the way you are asking the questions. So in that way, you are the one who is helping me to form my sentence so that it's meaningful to you. In that way. And which was very much correct in my observation, was that when I didn't have question, he had nothing to say. So there was no desire-driven entity who would like to carry on certain conversation or imposing some knowledge or telling me some fundamental truth or otherwise.
Is there some entity not related to desire, though? So if the desire is in
So desire is like when I am hungry, that entity is in operation.
Yeah, comes and goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. but it's not a constant.
It's not
The way
constant
I
demand.
think
The way we normally have this struggle. And if the if the entity cannot find its way through, you're down in the dumpster in boredom world. So in that way, there is no boredom. Absolutely none. Never.
But
I felt.
There's a way that people want to invalidate the idea of Yuji as genuine or something like that, because they feel like he misrepresented himself, or they get confused by how he presented his state, and then other things in his behavior that seem to contradict, like I have no image of myself, but here's a book of all my images, or things like that, you know? It seems like a contradiction. And then some people very superficially, because they don't think about it.
So that's why it's I mean, I was always, he's constantly telling there is no such thing as truth in that way. You cannot form one sentence which will be forever valid unless the sun rises from the east, and we define the east, and we define the sun, and we define the rising. So other than those categories, there is no truth in that way, So when it comes to him, I felt it's very one-to-one interaction of your discovery about what he's talking about, his functioning, and you gradually discover the meaning of what he's telling, how he's functioning. That is the most important aspect I found, and I don't know, it looks like that when he's denying all these things, it's actually looks like it freed a lot of people from carrying this burden which was not there to start with. They were carrying some excessive baggage all the time, and by denying, many people came to terms that this is more valid than they are finding out some truth through those exercises. Not whichever way anybody gets benefited out of it. And somebody thinks that by listening to Yuji they wasted their life, they should have listened to some religious teacher, and they should have gone to heaven or realized God, or lost their queue for a safe spot after the Armageddon. I don't know. Armageddon.
But what do you think, because you also have an interesting, or for me it was interesting to hear how you would describe, like, especially towards the end of Yuji's life, he would seem to have a habit of making the conversation a lot about himself and his life, and the same story again and again, and then what looked like bragging or propping himself up and all that. And that, I think, especially for people who have no context for it, and if they just saw that the first time, it would be difficult to
digest it. Absolutely.
So what is your take on that sort of activity?
That was actually right from the time I came into the picture. That was a general notion. And I found one-to-one he was never a problem. He was just the most perfect. Okay? It was the group dynamics. He has a group character, Like when he's in a group, he may be knowingly or unknowingly addressing a particular individual. Often it was impossible for that particular individual to know that he was addressing him or her, as the case may be, because it was a kind of a underground kind of a knowledge that because you know so many things, then you realize that who is that now he is hitting at, and things like that. So this general idea of, say there is a person, I always used to create this kind of simile between what was going on in the vicinity of, say, a person like Ramana. When you go inside his room, you don't discuss anything. You can't, you are forbidden. Right? So what do? You begin to pay attention because you went there to see him. Right? That's the general idea, that you begin to pay attention. And here it was a different way. He also didn't want anybody to chit-chat around him. And if you try to brag yourself, then why are you there? That was because nobody is interested in listening your bragging. But they all came because they felt something about Yuji. So, for many people, it was a treat that he was bragging himself. Because that's what they came there, because he was expressing, and behind that expression, there was some energy, and they got hooked to that energy. Okay? And if anybody else talking, it felt like somebody is putting a bunch of sand in the ear. It was that bad. So, in fact, he was doing a service to the people who tuned to that energy. You know, some other guy is trying to brag himself there. Nobody is interested to know his excellent faculty, skill, experience, or anything, any other thing. You can call me myopic or whatever it is. That's how it felt at that time. So I thought he was doing justice to all the people, those who really like to hear him. That's my point of view, because that is how I felt when somebody else was talking. You can call it whatever, you know, but maybe I was tuned to that energy. It felt good, it felt real, felt vibrant, felt life-giving.
Would you feel it all the time when you were around him?
Absolutely. Many people cherish it. We cut joke, but you wouldn't, you didn't come down with that joke.
And what were the spiritual comas people went into?
That is when you can't process your information in any direction, there is a slowing down. I mean, I don't have to go far, you know, I have seen in my own life with people, you know, when you hammer every possible way that what's the mental movement for? To understand, to acquire knowledge, to decipher between truth and false, to accept the realities, or whatever the way you want to understand. When these things are not there, what do? You zonk out, because that's the time, at least the energy is rejuvenating this system to keep this information processor where it belongs. That's what the point of view. Mm-hmm. But how can I express this point of view to anybody? There is no way. Unless you are in that field of operation or you are sensitive enough to understand what is going on in you and begins to appreciate that, and as a result of that you become very refreshingly alive and vibrant. Until then, it's not a sales pitch, he's not there anyway.
No, but I mean, that was your experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I'm going to turn this light on.
Yeah. My experience, I would rather listen to him day and night. If I want to read something, I go to the library and read it. It's not a very pessimistic view or disregarding somebody, because that somebody is just like me, will be bragging. But why not he? Why? Because that was the whole first point.
Yeah.
That you came there not to learn anything, just to interact, and that he made it very clear towards the end. You don't come there to learn anything.
Yeah. But did you feel like at the end there was some, maybe not dementia, but some sort of old age senility?
Yeah.
At what point do you think that started to...
On his fundamental take that he came down to, that was always there. Like he would tell exactly the same way. It was almost like it became his nursery rhymes, he would come down, nothing affected me, I don't care about anything, no knowledge actually moved me, all these things. These were all his fundamental building blocks on which he expressed himself all his life. Those were all there, It's like you never forget, as long as you can speak, you still remember your nursery rhymes. To me, it was like that. But in between, whatever needed to, like he would even forget that Shirdi Sai would put light on a water can. He would forget that example, but he used to say that, he was clever. He had a little bit of oil, then somebody gave water, the oil came up, and still he lighted, and they thought he produced a miracle.
Yeah, we're just gonna go with the light just a second.
It's okay.
But so how late before he died did you start to notice like a forgetfulness?
Oh, about his forgetfulness?
Yeah.
But very marginally, because he wouldn't encourage the intellectual queries or understanding. He would just go straight down to the bottom line and say his words, without spending any time of how he should explain it away. But at the same time, he could tell a lot of things which resembled his knowledge and rationality pretty well.
Yeah.
Even in 2005, I think he talked to those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was still very lucid.
Very lucid,
all the time. But there was just in some things you could notice that.
Yeah, that he didn't bother to remember it, to say it the way he used to say it before.
Yeah.
He just brushed aside,
came
straight down to
There's a
the...
very cute clip of him in Switzerland where he's talking with you, and he's saying, "What was my mother's name again?"
No, and the worst thing happened to him that I really felt that he is forgetting, that he would he would ask Lakshmi or somebody to read this Seed Beneath the Volcano, which is total story.
Yeah.
But of course the author thinks that's the God's truth. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's fine. A lot of people believe that anyway. So, and after reading 3-4 times, he would say, yes, yes. He totally never forgot about those distant cousin or relatives or somebody telling that he was like that. Yes, yes, I was like that.
Having no memory.
Having no memory at all, just because he heard 3 times from that book. Now nobody can challenge. If somebody says, no, Yuji, oh, you were there? Were you there? That guy has done a lot of research. No, I shouldn't talk this way, but
No.
that's the way it appeared at that time.